Bob Irwin. We are coming to you live, almost live on YouTube from the law office of Alan Butel here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Alan handles criminal defense and civil litigation cases, is a frequent guest on this show, and he has been kind enough to give us the space in his office to broadcast the show from, which is cool. This show is about guns, related political issues, and generally self-defense issues. Fired Up is on KSHP AM radio, actually a repeat of this broadcast, every Sunday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The YouTube show is on now, and though YouTube shows stay up forever, if you go to the YouTube website and type in Fired Up with Bob Irwin, you will see 5 years with multiple appearances by my guest today. Today's guest is murder defense specialist Clark Patrick, a local attorney here in Las Vegas. And Clark, if you would, a little bit of your background.
Sure, Bob. I grew up in Montana, hunting my whole entire life. Been around guns my entire life. I did a little stint in the Army in the late 70s, early 80s as a tank commander. And for the last 12 years now, I've been here in Las Vegas practicing solely murder defense.
Yeah, tough cases.
Yes.
Hopefully you will not meet Clark in his professional capacity because he only has people that are looking at least life in prison. Anyway, we've done a couple cases. I've done a couple cases for him over the years, and we are on the same page generally. If you wish to send us me an email or a text, you can do that at the note behind me, Bob at firedupmail.com. That has been working and not working. If you have sent emails I haven't responded to, I would suggest that instead you leave a message for me on the phone number below that, 702-257-1060. I'm reading it backwards in the monitor. I know what the number is, but I never call myself. The repairs are being made today to the firedupmail.com site, so hopefully it's working now. Anyway, we do answer all emails and all questions that I get by text or mail, and so send us something. If it doesn't go through right away or I don't answer, try leaving your name and phone number on that, first name anyway, and phone number on that phone number. There's a recorder on there, it gets them 24/7. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States, as we all know. Rarely covered by the mainstream media unless they are negative to firearms. So I pick out a few every week to use as examples. I tend to not use people's names. I do give up the city and town or the state that it took place in because the laws changed from state to state. What's obviously a legal shooting in Montana is not a legal shooting in New York City,
Right?
And vice versa. The laws vary from state to state, sometimes from city to city. So the disclaimer here is if you are involved in an active case, you have shot somebody or you've got some case running related to use of firearms or use of force, you need to contact local counsel. Do not take the advice from this show. The advice from this show is designed to keep you out of jail and keep you out of civil lawsuits, but what we conclude may not apply in the state that you live in. So there we are. The show goes all over the world, so we try and be about even-handed as we can to keep you out of trouble. Local law, local attorney. This is a local story, the first story up, TV8 News now, Channel 8, and the Review-Journal reported on the 21st here in Las Vegas. The Clark County District Attorney will decide if a man will face charges in a late-night shooting death of an apartment complex near the Meadows Mall. Police said it appears a neighbor was trying to protect a woman who was being beaten by her boyfriend. I think this was not a death case. I think the guy was going to recover.
Nope, deceased man.
Undeceased. You were,
Yeah.
okay. I typed these over a 2-day period, and
Right.
they run together in what's left of my brain here. Anyway, Um, the neighbor was trying to protect a woman who was being beaten by her boyfriend. The police were called to the apartment on Mission Laguna Lane about 10 p.m. on Thursday by a security guard. He was a witness. He wasn't there for the shooting. He arrived because he heard the gunfire. But he was the one that reported it. Investigators believe the deceased male had been abusing his girlfriend for hours before the shooting. They said the girlfriend had obvious signs of abuse, was bleeding from her face. They also believe the deceased had kicked down a door inside the couple's apartment earlier that day. Before the shooting, police believe the girlfriend ran from the apartment and found a neighbor she knew in the parking lot. The woman's longtime boyfriend apparently was chasing her. The neighbor stepped in. They got in an argument. There was a verbal argument, and there was some yelling, said Metro Homicide Investigator Lieutenant Dan McGrath. What he said was, what I was told by the security guard was that the neighbor, told him, the now deceased male, the neighbor told this guy that was beating his wife to back up, get back, or you'll be shot. Apparently, he continued forward. Police say during that confrontation, the neighbor fired one shot, hitting and killing the boyfriend. Investigators did not immediately release the names of anyone involved. They said the deceased man was in his 50s. Police say he had a history of domestic violence involving his girlfriend. Metro Police detectives said the shooter was not arrested and was cooperating with the officers. Detectives at this point said this could have been prevented, and this is quoting Lieutenant McGrath. If you hear your neighbors yelling and screaming and fighting, please call the police. That's our job. We'll come out. You may end up saving somebody from getting seriously injured or killed. First up, I got to comment that I have to agree with Lieutenant McGrath. The absolute best way is to let the cops handle it. If something's going awry, call the cops and let them take care of it. They have training more than you, lots of body armor, free backup, and don't even have to pay for their own lawyers. The taxpayers do that. So right. It's all handled. That being said, in my view, here we have a case of reasonable and necessary defense. Even if the responding officers were a block away, they couldn't possibly arrive in time to prevent this female victim from being beaten into the ground. I mean,
right.
Just
and by the time that she found the neighbor and the neighbor's telling him to back up, then at least she has a witness saying that he told them, warned them to back up. That even if the cops were a block away, the incident would have been over by the time they would have got there. Either the enraged boyfriend would have hurt one of the two or both of the two, or
yeah, I mean, I understand what Dan McGrath is saying. He's a bright guy, and he is not going to go on an interview and say, yeah, if somebody's hurting you, you should shoot them.
Right.
He's going to say, wait for the police, because isn't going to do the PR stumble of telling you to shoot somebody.
Right.
There are several sheriffs that have done that, more than many recently in Alabama and Louisiana, one in Florida, that said, we're not going to get there in time. If you're in trouble, protect yourself. You are your own first responder, which is true. However, Lieutenant McGrath is Lieutenant McGrath. There are several layers above him. He can't be making the decision to change their policy and have the police department say, yeah, shoot the guy. It's
very true.
I understand what he's going through. He's a bright guy, and you see him on TV all the time. We're always talking about training here on this show. It is to learn the rules, learn what you can and cannot do. And my gun store, my ex-employer, I'm not with the gun store anymore, as most people know. They're in East Tropicana. They offer the concealed carry class every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday for a minor fee. You can sign up online at thegunstorelasvegas.com or call 702-454-1110. But you'll find all this stuff at thegunstorelasvegas.com. A bunch of classes. Get training so you don't make a foolish mistake that costs you your house.
Not to digress, but now that you mentioned that, I've been wondering this for several weeks and I've failed to ask you, is Tony still there?
Yeah, he's doing the gunsmith work.
Okay.
He it's hard to keep up with. You know, they're running on fumes basically now, but he's still cranking away. I just spoke to him today. He didn't mention you. Just a side point.
Okay.
I'm in a funny mood, folks. KTRK, ABC TV 13, and Click 2 Houston both reported this story on July 26th in Houston, Texas. Houston police say a masked man entered the Wingstop restaurant in the 3700 block of Scott Street, just after 11 in the evening. That's near the University of Houston. The robber ordered everyone on the floor. Several customers actually ran into the restrooms and bolted the door and called 911. Good idea. Witnesses told police the man kept reaching into his waistband as if he had a weapon. He demanded money from the register, and an employee handed the guy $350 in cash. The robbers stated that when the robber came in wearing, a customer stated, I'm sorry, when the robber came in wearing a mask and dressed all in black, when the robber fled, the armed employee, an employee had a gun, chased him and shot the robber. Witnesses say they heard at least 10 gunshots. Now, this is obviously going to be a timing issue here. Investigators said on their version of it that the two exchanged gunfire. A customer said the shots were pretty loud and they happened right after we seen them come together at the register. So the customer again said, we are thinking that it was him, the robber, shooting the gun. It turns out one of the employees had a gun and shot back at him. So there's a lot of subtleties here depending on how this happened. At some point, Lieutenant Larry Croson with the Houston Police Department was a spokesman on this. He said at some point the victim felt he was in fear of his life. He had a pistol and he fired shots at the suspect. Not long after, police got a call from someone who saw a person lying down in an open area near Canfield Street. Turned out that was the wounded suspect. The suspect's in the hospital, expected to survive his injuries. Police say it will be up to a grand jury to determine if the employee was justified in the shooting. As a side note for Houston, according to the HPD, from January to May this year, there were 174 robberies. Last year, this year, that number at the same point is 249 robberies. Now, before we get into the details here, in Texas, the state law allows you to use necessary force, including deadly force, to recover stolen property or apprehend a fleeing criminal.
Not so much in Nevada.
If you're not living in Texas, don't do what this guy did. Under Texas law, this is probably a good shooting. Most jurisdictions, chasing the bad guy is actually an invitation to a lawsuit. You're going to get one. The other possible downside, of course, in chasing the guy is not only a lawsuit, but if he's an armed guy, what if he stops and shoots and kills you?
Right.
That's a really bad outcome.
If he's running away and all he has is money, let him go.
And the issue here, from what the police think happened, what the customer related, is at the register, the guy gives them the money, then the clerk draws his gun, they fire at each other at the register as the guy's turning to flee. That's absolutely a good shoot, almost anywhere but New York City. If he actually made it out the door and the guy chased him and fired at him outside, that's a bad shooting.
Yeah,
almost everywhere, but not in Texas. So the guy's okay where he is. So if you're going to do this, do it in Texas. Everybody should move to Texas and you can shoot whoever deserves it.
There you go.
We used to use that in class. In Texas, the law says you can shoot people that deserve to be shot.
Yes.
Were that the law here, we'd have a lot less
crime.
A lot less crime because we run into bad guys pretty quick. They tend not to reproduce when you kill them. So yeah.
Right.
So. WSB TV on the 24th of July in Lithonia, Georgia. DeKalb County Police say a homeowner shot and killed a man who was dressed like a woman After the subject broke into his home, it happened near Browns Mill Road just after 2 a.m. A Channel 2 reporter spoke with Police Lieutenant Lonzie Robertson about the case on Monday. The homeowner gave him a warning. The suspect continued to approach him. This is quoting the police lieutenant. The homeowner gave him a warning. The suspect continued to approach him, at which time the homeowner fired one shot. The burglar died at the scene. The lieutenant added the homeowner will not be charged because it's been ruled as self-defense. Apparently, the DA has already looked at this and decided that. The media spoke to neighbors in the area. One said he believes the homeowner did the right thing. That neighbor has a house full of females, wife, daughters, mother, and a grandmother, which I left out of the outline. He probably never can take a shower.
Right.
So he doesn't mess around when it comes to their safety. The neighbor added, I think people should protect themselves and their property. Police have not been able to identify this guy, but have reached out to the community to find out who he is. He was carrying no ID, and nobody recognized him at all in the neighborhood. So they actually put his picture on social media now to say, who is this guy?
Good disguise.
Yeah. The issue here, the reason I use this was he's disguised as a female. In my opinion, it's likely that that was intended to cause the homeowner to hesitate. We are all less wary of females coming to our door at odd hours. And in fact, the home invaders are frequently, I've seen 7 or 8 this year that I've read through. The female is in front, she knocks on the door, you look out, the part you can see, there's a lady, she says, you know, it's some variation of my car broke down, or I had a wreck, or I'm too drunk to drive, or I need your help and my cell phone's dead. That's always the issue. And she wants to come in to use your cell phone. Most of us macho dumb studs at that point open the door. And of course, the 3 guys that were out of sight just beyond where the people can see now crash through and invade your house. The solution to that is, if that happens, and this is a frequent scam, volunteer to call 911 and say, in fact, I'll call the police for you right now and get you a tow truck or, you know,
whatever you need.
And if she says, never mind, call the police anyway, because if she really was out there with a busted cell phone, she'd want the cops to come. They'd drive her home. You know, you're being set up for a scam when this lady shows up and wants to come into your house at 2 o'clock in the morning with the cell phone and car story. It's always some variation of those. Don't open the door, but call the police. You've got a suspicious person there, and you explain to the dispatcher what happened, and they'll roll on it and find out. And if she really does have a broken car, they'll fix it. More than likely, you're being set up. Don't be a dummy. Period. Jerry Creed, an attorney friend of mine, he does firearm trusts, particularly Class 3 firearm trusts. If you've got a trust to protect your guns or Class 3 guns, so they'll go to your heirs and so forth. The rules are changing dramatically. There's a new ATF rule every 6 minutes, which are getting better for protecting trusts. Other than now on a trust, you can't use your unnamed children's children as the person getting the trust, because they get the guns under the current law without a background check because they're the trustee. So that's been stopped. You can name them, but they're still going to have to pass a background check and so forth. Anyway, if you've got a trust or thinking about getting one to protect your assets in your event of your death, Jerry can be reached at 702-806-7777. Jerry Creed. Look him up, and you will find him. Very good guy, very bright on trusts. This story drives me crazy, and I put it in here. It's not very complete. This is News 3. I think News 13 carried a bit on it also here in Las Vegas. On the 1st of August, here in Las Vegas, police arrested 3 juveniles that the police say robbed 4 different Las Vegas businesses over a period of just over an hour in the wee hours of Tuesday morning. The 4 robberies occurred between 12:58 a.m., that's 1 o'clock in the morning, and 2:07 a.m. We have basically an hour window. They robbed 4 places. At least 2 of them had guns. According to the LVMPD, I'll get back to reading, the 2 suspects brandished weapons, brandished weapons, I can still talk, as they demanded money at 3 gas stations and a taco shop on the east side of the valley. The suspects also reportedly took money from patrons at the taco shop. That was the last place they did, and they got a little more brazen, and now they're actually robbing individuals. The police helicopter located the suspect's vehicle. There were lots of descriptions of the vehicle. If you're driving away from the scene of a crime at 1 in the morning,
don't drive a gold car.
And there's not a lot of traffic.
No.
You know, it's pretty easy to pick out, look for a gold car. Well, there's only 3. Okay, that one looks like it's going the right direction. Anyway, the air unit got him, gold Honda Accord, followed it to Lamb and Vegas Valley. It leaves it out of the story, but I assume that's when the ground units intercepted it. And 2 of the suspects fled the car on foot. The other remained in the car. All 3 were arrested with the assistance of Metro's helicopter and canine units. No information on the identity of the suspects was released. When I first heard this story, the first draft I saw that I believe said these were 3 15-year-olds. And I may be wrong on that. I haven't been able to verify it. They are now described as young juveniles. They're in custody. They're before robberies and a spree of a bunch of kids. I'm getting on a rant here about juvenile crime.
Seems to be a lot of it around Las Vegas these days.
It's all over the country. If you read, I mean, reading through these, a lot of them are 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds, and they get tried as adults. They forget that if you're 16, you can be tried as an adult in most jurisdictions. They're certified as an adult.
Yeah. Or 15.
Or 15 here, can you?
Yeah.
That's why I have lawyers on the show. You ever seen that happen?
Yes, I've had a 15-year-old client.
Wow. Anyway, these 3 are young enough. Apparently, the police didn't feel comfortable in giving their ages. But we have robberies like this. Okay, there's nothing the store operator can do that's a good choice. Yeah, we always talk about, you know, if you're in this situation, that you should do this, you should do this, or do that. In this situation, there are only bad choices. If you place yourself in the position of the guy behind the counter, and these guys come rushing in, they're 1 in the car, 3 rush in, 2 have pistols. Do you assume they're adults and shoot in self-defense? Do you assume they're children and you hold your fire and then you get killed? Or you run out the back and leave your customers to their fate?
You're on your own, guys.
There are 3 good choices. There are 3 choices, but none of them are good choices.
Right.
And what I'm trying to get to the point is that often in armed confrontations, there are no good choices. There simply aren't. You're going to, in a flash of a moment, you're going to pick out whatever choice is there in your primitive brain, where you just react to save your own life. And there are no good answers. It's in this vein, when I was teaching police academies, we gave the cadets at one point in a couple of the academies, I did the use of force too, and one of the scenarios I'd give to a classroom full of police cadets was, you get a call of an armed robbery, somebody with a gun, and they ran down the alley, and you're near the area, you bail out of your car and you run down the alley, and there the guy is. And it's a blind alley, he can't escape, he's there in an alley, there's no cover. And you come around the corner and the guy is, this armed robber turns out to be a juvenile, and he's pointing a gun at you. What do you do? And the cadets, of course, I'm trying to make a training point here, not tell them what their agency's policy is going to be, but they would say, well, I go prone, so I'm less likely to be hit. I duck back behind a wall. I turn and I'd run till I had some cover I could use, et cetera, et cetera. All of which your response is there is someone pointing a gun at you,
right?
And that's your solution, is you're going to go prone. Well, bullets skid off the ground at 1.5 degrees. You're more likely to get hit if you're on the ground. If he misses wildly, but the bullet hits in front of you, it's going to hit you. You're going to get killed. The correct answer to a police officer cadet is don't die. There are no good choices, and in that scenario, there are no good choices, certainly. And I just want to make that point. I've said that a lot on the air, but nobody wins gunfights. You can survive gunfights, but nobody ever really wins.
Right.
So try to avoid it. And what you're going to do, dear store owner, when 3 juveniles, 2 of whom are armed, come in and start pointing guns at your customers, don't die.
Yeah. Try not to let your customers die.
Then you find Clark to defend you, and a jury will understand that. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
The jury isn't going to say, well, no matter what, you should have died instead of shooting at a juvenile. Where would that come from?
Right.
It won't. So I guess the jury system is your best defense, my opinion. End of rant. Okay, Fox TV 17 on the 30th of July, a week ago in Nashville, Tennessee. A local resident and his friend arrived at the Suburban Lodge on Central Pike after a Sunday afternoon church meeting. When they entered the elevator, along with them came a 48-year-old man who, it turns out, did not have a room at the hotel. He just followed him in the elevator. The victims told police they exited the elevator and went towards their room, while the 48-year-old also exited, but he walked in the opposite direction. Okay. The 48-year-old then returned to their door and tried to gain entry. He's pulling on the handle or rattling the door to see if they had locked it. The guy opened the door, apparently, hearing somebody rattle the door. Then they'd just come in. Maybe they'd left something in the hall, or the maid's telling them something. Anyway, they opened the door, and the guy's there, and he had a metal object in his hand. They saw a flash of silver, or the guy did, the main guy. And the guy is slashing at him. Believing that it was a knife and fearing for his life, the resident knocked the would-be intruder down. That allowed the resident to step back, retrieve a Glock handgun he had just set on the table when he came in the room. So he picked that up, and the guy is lunging at him, apparently, and he fired a shot, hitting the guy in the left bicep. The 48-year-old intruder then tried to run off with the knife, but the resident was able to stop him. He held the intruder at gunpoint until police arrived. Turns out the local resident had a valid Tennessee carry permit, so he's good with his gun. Apparently had some training. No charges will be filed against the victims, as the shooting was self-defense. That is, the shooter and the other guy that was with him, or girl. They didn't say who the second person was. They weren't involved. They decided it was self-defense. Police arrested the 48-year-old on 2 charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. This is clearly a valid shooting in most jurisdictions. The resident showed incredible restraint in firing one shot.
Yeah.
You see these where somebody's lunging at you with a knife, and usually what you see is the next line. And the victim responded with 14 shots,
right?
7 of which hit the guy. He fired 1 shot. Holding the perp for the police was fine. I expect that with this guy's apparent training and level-headedness, had the guy tried to escape, the resident would have chased him down the hall.
Just let him go.
Would have let him go. You know, the rule is once you're safe, yeah, the police are going to catch him. He's there. There are units coming in from all over the place. How many people are dressed like him are going to be running away from this hotel at that time? You know,
bleeding from the arm.
They're going to get him. You know, so or he's going to show up at the hospital and say, "I accidentally shot myself," which they always do. Anyway, the metal object they thought was a knife when they apprehended the guy turned out to be a fork.
Well, it's a good thing the resident had his Glock because he almost got forked.
Great. Obviously, a fork doesn't change anything because slashing at particularly the guy's face, could he cause you serious bodily harm with a fork? Sure.
Yes.
It could cause you serious bodily harm with a fist.
Yeah.
So,
fork would be a deadly weapon in Nevada if he would have killed the guy.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you have to understand, anything is a deadly weapon. It depends on what you're using it for.
Yes.
Tire irons are deadly weapons. Baseball bats are deadly weapons, etc. Rocks are deadly weapons.
Basically, the way the Nevada statute's written, if you kill somebody with it, it's a deadly weapon.
Because it's self-proving.
Yes.
The guy died as a result of it's a deadly weapon. So, yeah, and if someone is coming toward you with a fork,
don't get forked.
Wow. Why do I have you on? Commercial Grant Defense, my friends over there at 5580 South Decatur, corner of Russell and Decatur. They're next door to the Dewey Animal Shelter. I mention that every time. So you'll adopt a guard puppy who will bark when bad guys come, and then they'll run away and not mess with you.
Yes.
They actually build AR-15s, their own receivers, uppers and lowers, and some amazing Glock custom pistols. They refit Glocks into really slick guns. You can find them online, Grant Defense. They're on Facebook now. Their website, as of this week, is not up. I just checked before we come on the air. It'll be grantdefense.com, but it ain't there. They are on Facebook with a page there with lots of pictures of their guns and so forth. But if you're in the market for an AR or a carry Glock, that they're great. Dewey Animal Shelter, their back door hits Grant Defense's back door, right on Dewey Drive and Decatur. Can't miss it. Okay. This is a little dicier shooting. This is WMC Action News 5, reported on 7/28 of 17 in Memphis, Tennessee. A shooting took place shortly before 5:30 p.m. on Poppin Drive near Kimball Street. Memphis police have identified a man shot on Friday afternoon as a local 36-year-old. He was found inside a 2015 Nissan Frontier pickup truck with a gunshot wound and pronounced dead at the scene. Police say the 36-year-old reportedly broke out the back window of the vehicle with an iron chair and then climbed through the back window. The truck was parked in its owner's driveway. The owner came out, said he warned the suspect. I said, "Don't do nothing else, walk away, don't do nothing." He looked at me and then he dived back into the truck. I guess he caught him in the back of the truck with the window broken, and then after he warned him, the guy jumped through the broken window into the cab. The owner told police that weapons were in his vehicle. He thought, therefore, the criminal was armed. He shot at him with a handgun he brought out when he heard the commotion. The owner of the vehicle, the house, and whatever, remained at the scene. The owner said it was all in self-defense and that it was in his driveway trying to protect himself, his family, and his neighbors. As a last resort, after the warning, he opened fire. He said he had remorse for the shooting and killing the man in his driveway, but he stands firmly behind his choice to pull the trigger. To protect, this is an exact quote, "To protect myself, my family, my neighbors, I feared for my life," he said. The Memphis PD said the deceased was also wanted by the police after ramming into officers' cars and fleeing in traffic, apparently just before this. That's why he was looking for another car, apparently. He also had 8 active warrants unrelated to this incident. He had a long criminal history. Court records show he'd been convicted sex offender since June of 2000. All evidence was presented to the district attorney's office, or the district attorney general's office, they call it there, and no charges are filed at this time.
This could be a little different.
Use this as an example of why you lawyer up.
Yeah, he should have, you know, it's getting a little thin protecting your family and property and fearing for your life when he could have gone back inside and called the police. The only thing that may save him is if he did indeed have some loaded firearms in the truck, which may not be the best place to store them overnight. You know, he's going to have some problems, and yeah, you know, if you get in a shooting, don't talk to anybody until you've talked to your lawyer. When the police come, tell them who you are, that you own the house, that that's your truck, that the guy broke into it, that there's, you know, loaded weapons in it, and save everything else for after you talk to your lawyer. That's.
There was more to this. If you look up at WMC Action News 5 in Memphis, Tennessee, you can find the stories online if you search for them. This guy's a real bad guy. He has all these warrants. He's a check and all.
But that has absolutely nothing to do with the case.
Yeah.
You know, if the news reporter put that in there, it's because he's trying to help the homeowner. But in court, or when the district attorney general's office looks at it, that's going to have very little to do with actual shooting.
No, it doesn't. The question is when he says, you know, I fired because my family was in danger. When this goes to court, the other side is going to be, when the lawsuit goes to court, because there were guns in the truck, but the guy didn't point them at this guy. And he says, I was protecting my family. What are you doing out here in the driveway?
Yeah.
You know, I understand him going out to the truck because somebody's breaking in. When there were guns in the truck, now he's kind of stuck. But still, unless the keys were in the truck, at that point when the guy got in the truck, back in the house, undercover, behind something solid, call the police.
Call the cops.
And if the guy comes out of the truck with a gun, shooting at your house or coming towards you, then you've got your self-defense issue.
Now we got a better case, but for sure.
He's assuming the guy's going to do something really, really bad.
Yes.
So he preemptively shot him. This could be a tough case. I'm just picturing lawsuit lawyers in Memphis salivating when they read this story.
Yeah,
wow. Hopefully the guy owns a nice house.
Right? Yeah, the deceased guy's family is going to definitely file.
And even though he had 8 active warrants and he's a sex offender, you know, a mother, brother, cousin, somebody.
They say he was an angel.
We loved him.
He was a firecracker. He was in college. He was whatever.
He was planning to start college next week.
Yes, going to start college next week.
Right after he found a job.
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever. I mean, you get all these stories, but that's what they get in front of a jury when they come after you for this. They're saying the district attorney general's office said no charges will be filed at this time. This is here because it's an example of what not to say.
Yeah.
You tell the police what happened. Guy was in my truck. There's guns in the truck. I thought he was going to come out. What you don't tell them is why it happened.
Yeah.
I thought my life was in danger. Because in court they're going to take that statement and they're going to just chew you to pieces.
Yes, they will.
Yeah. And rationally, your life was in danger. How? And you're protecting your family. Why were they in danger?
Yeah.
Well, they would have been if the guy got one of the guns.
If he would have got one of the guns.
Preemptive strike, like we're looking at with Korea. They haven't done anything to us yet.
No, not yet.
Michaela Nebel, a dear friend of mine, she's a range master on occasion at the gun store. She is also the third-ranked boxer in her weight class in the world. Has opened her own boxing gym for kids and young adults with some financial help from another guy. Anyway, it's called Real Boxing, and you can call 702-816-4657. 702-816-4657. This show stays up on YouTube forever, so that's still valid a year from now when you forgot the number. Ask for Michaela, and she's a great boxer and just great with kids. It's a wonderful kids class for extra things like that. Want to remind everybody also, next Thursday, Maggie Mordaunt will present one of her ladies self-defense classes at the gun store on East Tropicana. Again, 702-454-1110. I probably didn't give you, I was writing this page on the way.
No, I kept that because I wanted to remember where the gun shows were.
Oh, that's why you get, jeez. Upcoming gun shows, we've got Crossroads of the West Gun Show, July 29 and 30 in Reno at the Reno Convention Center. I have some passes here. If you will try to send me an email. If that doesn't work, I don't respond. It didn't work because I always respond to them. Call the number, give me your name and a telephone number to get your information from, and I will send you a pass. It's July 29 and 30 in Reno. Armagosa Valley's got a gun show run by the Armagosa Chamber of Commerce.
Now that one sounds interesting.
It's a neat little show.
Yeah.
My engineer that usually works here, Charlie Wigland, said he went to it and it was like an amazing show. There's all these, locals that just bring all kinds of stuff and put it on their table like a giant gun garage sale.
I think
a lot of
that's
neat
very
stuff.
Cool.
Western Trails has a show on the East Side Cannery Casino on August 12 and 13. Crossroads.
Now, is that a antique type
No.
gun show? No, that's a regular type.
Western Trails is a lot of stuff that isn't actually guns. There's a lot of beef jerky and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But the show's there. It's in between when there are no other shows going on, August 12 and 13. I'm going to try and get by there. I'll be sitting at the NRA table if I do on Saturday afternoon on August 12th. My schedule is a little hammered right now with the trial I got coming up. Crossroads of the West, the big show at Cashman Field downtown, August 26 and 27. Same pass. If you get one of these, you've already got one, you didn't use it. It's good at all the Crossroads shows. And Claude Hall's Las Vegas Gun Show is, I'm announcing a gun show in July and it's now August. I think I wrote the wrong time down.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Was that Armagosa one in July?
Well,
too?
maybe I got the wrong date in there. Or I didn't update this page. Well, anyway, skip the first two.
Rats.
The Crossroads of the West, August 26, 27, passes for that. And Claude Hall's gun show, September 2 and 3 at the Sports Center, will be there also. And actually, one of my attorneys, Don Green, will be at both these shows also, at the Crossroads show and the Claude Hall show. They're listed on the website, and if it's not updated, it will be before I go to bed tonight. I hope. Again, the auto replay of this show, the talking part of it, will be on KSHP Radio on Sunday from 9 to 10 a.m. The YouTube shows are there, so you can look up all this stuff. Well, I did this in an awful hurry. This copy is from last week's page. That's why.
So that was the Armagosa show that I wanted to go to was 4 days ago.
I believe so. This is real. This is live YouTube. We're about out. Well, we're right on time anyway. We're about. We start at 4:30. I thank you for watching Fired Up. A little discombobulated. The set's getting better. The sound's getting better. Everything's getting better. And I really apologize. I got late on doing the outline. I was doing it the last minute until 9 o'clock last night, as you can tell when you got the final copy of it.
Right.
Anyway, I'll get caught up. As I said, I've been kind of jammed with a couple of trials I'm working this week and getting prepared for one next week. So I apologize. I just lost track of days and didn't get everything done.
Totally good.
But it'll get better.
Sorry, I'm aggressive, Ellie. I came out.
Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. And again, if the email firedupmail.com, bob@firedupmail.com doesn't work yet, it will shortly. You can call and leave a name and contact number so I can get you gun show passes or whatever it is you need. Thanks for watching. Clark, thank you again one more time.
Always a pleasure.
And we will see you all next week. I've got Don Green. I didn't announce that. I missed that page too. Next week's guest is Las Vegas attorney and California attorney, Don Green. He's the guy that's always at the gun shows with his table and handing out stuff. He's got some rants he wants to do next week's show. A lot of stuff happening in the gun law area that is interesting to gun owners. And he always has some of those in the legal opinions of what's going to happen and predictions. So tune in next week. Thank you, Clark. I'll see you again in a couple of weeks, no doubt. And thanks for listening, y'all.